to California, where we do have Governor Gavin Newsom speaking to the media. Let's listen in.
And we are doing more. And as you see today, we are doing better. And I want to applaud the Speaker. As was said, Marshall's absolutely right. There was only one bill the Speaker said he wanted to attach his name to. And he helped create the conditions that led to this bipartisan support of a bill that's long overdue. The superintendent made that point subtly in terms of the leadership that he demonstrably has advanced here without waiting for the state of California. But it builds on over $500 million that we have invested in literacy coaches over the last few years. Additional $200 million that Martha referenced that was in the budget this year in this space. And now we have enshrined, or will in a moment, the architecture for the meaning of those investments from a professional development perspective, not just for teachers themselves, but more broadly for principals and the entire ecosystem within the school and the district. And so this is long overdue. But it builds on this, and I don't think most people are aware of this. From 2011 to 2022, I'm waiting for the newest numbers, there was no other system of education in the United States of America that saw faster improvement in reading for 8th graders than the state of California. Again, these investments are starting to produce real results. But yes, good enough never is, and no, we're not satisfied with where we are. But I will say 1.8% improvement in ELA this year, 1.8% improvement in math this year, and 2% improvement in science. It's a good start. The significantly greater improvement, however, and I will end as we began, in LA Unified is the reason the state can lay claim to this larger narrative. It is absolutely true that LA Unified has outperformed the state, and as LA Unified goes, the state of California goes. And it's also a point of pride that you made the decision to extend the tenure of arguably the best and the brightest mind as a superintendent in the United States of America, LA. We can say this to the folks in, well, Miami: eat your heart out. I cannot impress upon you how grateful we are, Mr. Superintendent, of your leadership across the spectrum. Final words, that was demonstrable yesterday. And yesterday we announced we provide about 1 billion meals a year in our public school system. We were the first in the nation to provide 2 free meals a day. But we did something yesterday that's also first in the nation, and that's to address the issue of ultra-processed foods. And as has been the case so often, Superintendent said, well, welcome to that conversation as well. We've already taken steps to move in that direction. So that's what leadership is about. Marshall Tuck, that's what leadership looks like. Marshall did a remarkable job of working across the aisle, every conceivable difference to create the conditions to help the Speaker get this bill to my desk. And Marshall, I just want to thank you for decades of your leadership, but particularly what you've done with literacy and the partnership with our system and with Brooks and Linda and others over the course of the last few years. And Martha, you are an advocate that demands more from us and expects more from us. And I know you will be back next year expecting more bills to be signed, more investments to be made. But again, I'm really proud to see these investments paying off. And I hope we have been able to communicate that pride today and demonstrably back it up in terms of the data. With that, we're here now to sign this bill and get this process moving formally. We'll do a quick.
All right, there we go.
Done. All right. I'll put that up in your hands. Well said. Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's a long time coming. And it is It is about creating the conditions where success becomes irresistible. And again, that's the work of Marshall and Martha and others that helped create those conditions in Sacramento that allowed us to gain the kind of support we did. With that, we're here to answer any questions.
Governor, you said it was a long time coming. Can you talk about how those negotiations and how hard it was to bring all those interests to the table to have these tough negotiations?
Well, I think everybody has the same interest in mind, and that's the same outcome. They want to see improvements and just want to do things with people, not to people. And I think it's about building trust. It's about relationships. Often it's about language. So often it's about language. But at the end of the day, the one common denominator is if we're going to move off our position, are you going to back it up with real resources? And I think that, more than anything else, unstuck a lot of these conversations. And we've just been privileged in the last few years to be able to do some things we haven't been able to do in decades in California and make these historic investments above and beyond Prop 98 guarantees. And I think that helped aid and advance this effort.
And then 2 days ago, you also signed the anti-Semitism chapter in schools bill. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
Well, that was a long process as well, and in many respects is connected to some of the ethnic studies questions, and both are subject to appropriation and support in the legislature in the next few years, and both are nuanced, and both have their supporters and their detractors. And both are works in progress. And, I thought it important to sign that bill on the second anniversary of that terrorist act by Hamas on October 7th. By the way, let me applaud Jared Kushner and Witkoff and others for what appears to be a job well done on phase one of a peace deal agreement. Long overdue, and that's not, there's no partisanship in this respect. We are here to promote peace. And just address these lives torn asunder. So I thought it was appropriate to put it out on that date, but it's a work in progress, meaning we're setting up the standards for deal with hate, discrimination across the spectrum, and we have work to do to set up that office and the coordinators throughout the system, and that work begins in next year's budget.
Governors in Cal State, Los Angeles said it is giving the name and number of every employee to the Trump administration for the anti-Semitism investigation. Should universities be handing over employee roles to President Trump? And will you ask for an independent review of Cal State like you did with UC Berkeley?
Yeah, and interestingly, and thank you for mentioning, I just received that review, and the compelling case that was made that they legally were required to do what they do. That distills the essence of what was provided to me. By definition, to the frame of your question, I would extend that same consideration to understand why you see now CSU is providing that information. It goes without saying we're a stone's throw away here from USC as well. And as it relates to what we're seeing as an assault on independent thinking, institutions of independent thinking, academic freedom, but as it relates to information that in prior administrations was turned over and legally is required to be turned over, they may be compelled by that, but obviously we'll take a look at the details, not dissimilar to what we did at UC Berkeley.
So you haven't yet decided if you're fully satisfied with that explanation, but that
I just received the report. I'm just reviewing the report from UC. I would extend that same criteria as you framed the question as it relates to reviewing the justification for doing something that appears to be similar at the CSU system. Would request and will receive similar information on the basis of that information that I received recently at UC Berkeley.
And just one follow-up. It's been more than 2 months since the Trump administration proposed a $1 billion UCLA settlement. Is there a timeline to sign off on a UC deal with you?
Well, that's a regental question, and I've made my position very, very clear on that. Very clear on that. And it was reinforced, forgive me once again, proximate to USC in the context of this quote-unquote compact that the Trump administration is seeking, which is just simply without precedent in modern American history. And it is assault on academic freedom. And again, it is consistent with an assault against institutions across the spectrum of independent thinking and cultivation of independent thought. And that should put chills up the spine of everybody. And so I am crystal clear that we should not be negotiating on his terms.
But on that $1 billion settlement.
And that is very much directed to your question about that $1 billion settlement at UCLA. Anybody else?
I'll ask, yeah, just can you clarify about the $4.4 billion? Is that going just toward the implementation of AB 1454 or towards other programs?
No, more broadly. I'm sure Martha would love to see 4.4 billion. Marshall, on that. No, those are there are a number of investments that we've made in community schools and after school and summer school for all, what we refer to in the lexicon of the state board as extended learning, and that money is in that space. But as it relates to the issue connected to the bill I signed, this is a companion bill that aligns with the appropriation that was made in this year's budget of $200 million that builds on the $500 million, $500 million that we put in over the last few years for literacy coaches and our efforts to implement the broader vision that Martha referenced as it relates to our Golden State Literacy Plan.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right. Thank you.